Pollack. I'm the regional sales rep for Minn Kota. Minn Kota is owned by Johnson Outdoors, which is also Humminbird and Cannon downriggers. Later on in the deck, I'll mention Humminbird. You'll understand why I mentioned it, because it's the same company. I cover Oregon, Southwest Washington, and Alaska for the brand. So appreciate you guys sticking and staying today to learn a little bit about Minn Kota motors. Anybody here already got a bow mount or Minn Kota at all?
No, but I've seen them a lot.
Okay.
I don't, but I want one.
Okay,
I want to get rid of my anchor.
Okay, so that's why you guys stuck it out. So here the spiel. So in this overview, we're going to talk about bow mounts, what are the features, why we need them, why we want them, the different technologies. You hear spot lock, that's the anchor term. You said you want to drop your anchor. The term fishing and four-wheel drive, that is a term that we use, especially down here in the lower estuary. I'll kind of cover that briefly. And then with some of the misconceptions about how to choose your motor, what size motor. I got this boat, that boat. It helps you kind of drill it down to, you can walk out of here, hopefully you can walk out of here today and know exactly which one you're going to buy when it's time. Lastly, some of the technical aspects of batteries and chargers. A lot of guys are questioning batteries. What types, lithium ion, lithium phosphate, there's a lot of technologies moving on there. So we'll talk batteries a little bit, mainly really hopefully keep it open and fluid. You guys can talk, ask questions. So, Minn Kota. Historically, we had two technologies, but really they were the same. iPilot, iPilot Link. You've heard these terms if you've been around anybody in the boating or bow mount market. iPilot has been like the term. So that's what that means is you have a GPS built into your motorhead that drives the bow mount. It is standalone to the stuff that you're looking at for finding fish or your GPS on the boat. So all Minn Kota bow mounts have their own GPS sensor sending units all built in. So you don't have to buy another GPS clock or another system. You buy a system that's got it. We historically called it iPilot. For all the new motors for 2024, that system is called Advanced GPS. The reason we did that is because there's two styles previous, iPilot, iPilot Link. We've combined it, just rebranded Advanced GPS. And with that, there is some other features. We'll kind of talk about it. But a lot of guys ask, hey, I want that iPilot motor, and you go in the shop and they're like, oh, it's called Advanced GPS. Oh, wait, I wanted the iPilot. It's all still there. This is what people talk about first when they talk about electric trolling motors for the history is spot lock. You own a motor up, put your bow mount in the water, hit a button, turn your gas motor off, and literally sit where you're at. Completely anchored. Using a GPS positioning and the direction of the keel of your boat, that bow mount will follow that current and wind and whatever else is pushing against you and keep it where you're at. This has been the technology that's just drove bow mount market insane, especially out west, because we can essentially anchor fish. The question is now, how accurate is it? I see guys, swing around on their anchors. I mean, this is more accurate than a guy on a hook. Even a guy on a hook with a drift sock, this is accurate than 5 feet, less than 5 feet. If you're in a clear, open, sunny day, you're not in a deep canyon, you're getting GPS interference, you're less than 5 feet accuracy on a spot lock. So guys that want to anchor fish, whether it's upriver for quick fish for springers, whether it's on a lake, whether it's offshore and around on the reef bottom fishing, spot lock on boats the size of, the smallest you physically put one on, all the way up to 35, 40-foot boats are using bow mounts, and they're using spot lock. So that has been the biggest term we've used for the new motors. I won't kind of go back and forth. In a salesman pitch, we're talking last year because you guys sold them last year, and this year we're selling this motor. I'll just talk today. So today, spot lock is still the #1 best anchor system. Minn Kota developed it. We still have the best technology and algorithms to hold your boat where it's at. Under the umbrella of all of our other technologies, people will ask, these are all the Humminbird patented technologies in a bow mount design. Autopilot, first one on the left. I point it to a heading, I hit go. My motor will hold me into that heading. I'm going to drill down on maybe some application purposes here after I go through these, but backtrack allows you to fish a line and fish right back up backwards. Circle mode, if I'm on that spot lock that we were talking about earlier, if I'm on a reef offshore bottom fishing, and the bite kind of dies down, but I'm still seeing fish on my graph, I can go circle mode 20 feet out and go in a radius 20 feet from that spot lock and drive around. And now I'm casting on bottom fishing. Same thing if I'm inshore on a lake and I'm fishing crappie or bass. If there's an area I want to stay on and I just kind of want to keep pounding it, you can actually set a radius and fish the radius. Track offset. So earlier we talked about a track. If I drove a track, I could come back to the track and say I want to be 10 feet off. Kind of fish that, I want to come off 10 feet or 20 feet. Cruise control. This is basically, it sets a speed of your motor. I'm going to kind of softly talk about that because I'm going to go into a technology here in a minute that's supersedes it. Go to a waypoint. You can set a waypoint on your graph if you're using a Hummingbird. I'll explain a little bit more. Or if you have a waypoint saved in your remote device, or on the One Boat Networking app that is from Minn Kota on your phone. So a lot of guys now, we're using our phones even run our balance. I'll get into that a little bit later this morning. iTracks, again, that's a track you bring. So just like on your GPS in your MFD, your fish finder, you can do the same thing and follow it on your remote. And then routes, this is where it gets kind of fun. I can actually plan my fishing day from a computer or my phone before I go out with the right pieces and go out and fish that route. So these are all the features encompassed in a Minn Kota bow mount today. When I talked about cruise control, I stopped short because today we've got on all our new motors, it's a 2024 newer motor, it's got this new mode called drift mode. And basically it's combining autopilot and cruise control in one button. One push of the button, I can set a speed and a heading. And no matter what the current is doing or the wind, it's going to continue to hold that speed and heading. If I'm back trolling steelhead in the river, I can go up, drop it, and I can set a speed and a heading and back troll with the bow mount. I'm out here forward trolling for fall chinook, I can set my heading and a speed and be completely controlled by the bow mount. So drift mode is new this year. It's a simple button on all the remotes and or the phone app that's been so far really well received. Yes?
For like halibut drifting now, I don't want the boat staying like in your background. Can I keep the boat oriented in one direction so all the downlines are staying
Yes.
down?
And for halibut, I'd actually probably use straight autopilot and just thrust up, thrust down to hold your drift. Rather than using
That
drift
will allow
mode.
me to back
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
It won't try to keep me in one spot.
It's going to try to keep you on a point-to-point heading is autopilot. So it's going to say I'm traveling here, but it does not control your prop speed. So if I say this is my line, but I want to back into it, I hit autopilot. So now I've set the line, and then I just control the prop speed, or leave one in and just kind of come in and out of gear. But that way my bow is keeping in line into that drift. That's how the guys down in Charleston do it. Now there's a little bit of negative question, because this is the kind of stuff that we want to get into, is how do I actually use some of these techniques and technologies. You'll learn, like every tool, everybody adapts tools to their own styling, their own, whatever, even fishing, we all adapt. What I found with using it, both in the river, lakes, and offshore, is some of them work really good today. Some of this techniques, drift mode, cruise control, and tomorrow I'm only using it in autopilot, and the next day I'm only using it all manual. I'm just driving manual because I'm more responsive to what the current's doing. But for halibut guys, what I think you would find best is getting your boat, so you're using the bow mount, keep the wind from pushing off the drift, and just using autopilot, set your heading, and then just control your prop speed up and down. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does the technology exist for, let's say you're walleye fishing and you want to follow a contour? Let's just say you're fishing 27 feet wide.
Yep.
Is there a bow mount that will tie into your depth finder to keep you on that contour?
Yes. Every one of Hummingbird's units ties into every one of Minn Kota's motors for following contours, following vegetation.
Only that one relationship?
Yeah, it's only that one. Yeah, the technologies, again, because they're parent companies, keep their technologies together, you know what I mean? So like, we share some data in some instances, but the communication of navigation is done through the Ethernet. It's proprietary. And then on mapping cards are the only ones that have true mapping built into them, true navigation mapping, so all your layers are in there.
So we finally just got to where all the cell phones are using the same power card now, so maybe some
I know someday, right? Yeah. No, the NMEA and ABYC, they've been pushing for about 15 years to go to this network called One Network. I think it's One Network. It's an Ethernet base from yachting to what we do. It's been over 15 years and it has happened. Yeah, so marine business moves at snail speed. So great question. Advanced follows. So here's what you're asking. You can follow a depth, bottom hardness, or vegetation contour line. You can also follow a shoreline. So if I'm walleye fishing or bass fishing, but again, these technologies are only working in coexist within a hummingbird fish finder or graph. Okay, fishing in four-wheel drive, or as this author George Crum wrote, trolling in four-wheel drive. This is from Salmon Trout Steeler. It's an article he wrote quite a few years ago, but I really like George. He's a good friend of mine, and he nailed it pretty well on how we actually use it in a for trolling application. So the problem we have today, if I'm in any boat, I don't care if you got a windshield or if you're an open tiller and you don't have the wind. Windshield boats obviously get a lot more affected by the wind. If I'm on a forward troll, especially down here, and the current, and I want to fish that way. If the southwest blows this way, and I keep doing this, and I'm back here overcorrecting. What a bow mount does is it fixes all of it instantly. You put that rudder in the water. What I do is I'll face it into the wind. I'll just adjust my prop speed just enough that I'm not pulling, and then I'm just bucking the wind. Same thing when the boat comes blowing by me, and I get that washboard of water, and I blow way off with the kicker, and I'm back there with my tiller handles trying to straighten out. You end up making big radiuses to get back in your line. You don't have that with the bow mount. If you've got a Garmin autopilot on your kicker, it helps. I mean, I can go a little hands-free, but if I'm in the wind or a boat runs by me, I'm doing this, right? I'm out on my true line. You don't have that with a bow mount. You stick that bow mount in, you hit autopilot, or you just turn the prop speed to 3 and put your motor into the wind, you're hands-free. My kicker is locked forward. I adjust kicker throttle for my troll speed. Bow mount's turning, and I am trolling. Unfortunately, I'm trolling so perfectly, I'm having to dodge all the guys that are just getting blown off, especially down below the bridge in the mid-F. Everybody's on the 30, 35 line heading out. And everybody got, I don't know if you guys fish down here, but if you do, you understand what I'm talking about. But anytime you got the currents coming off the sands and the wind, everybody wants to fall. You don't with a bow mount. It literally is a, as he calls it, and everybody hates the term, but a game changer. It makes your motor boat control like nothing you've ever dealt with ever. I mean, it is amazing to be able to go hands-free, net fish, fight fish, clean, rebait, do everything in the heavy traffic with wind and currents, and you are dead nuts down the troll line. So, again, like how he kind of explains how it works, how I use it, again, is gas kicker locked in straight forward. I use it strictly for propulsion. The bow mount is for all my heading and or counteracting conditions. Wind, current, sometimes like the shipping currents off the sands or anywhere. The water underneath is still going this way. My gear is down, but if I let the top current just blow me, my lines are crab walking and you're not fishing. That's very true. So keeping your boat straight, the bow mount does just, it's not even funny how accurate you can be. One guy told me, he called me up and he goes, Trout, man, I'm just thinking surgical with this thing. And he was trolling through crowds. So he mentions autopilot, cruise control, drift modes. Actually, I had drift modes in here. Those 3 technologies, like we're talking about halibut fishing, you'll mess with those. I don't see cruise control being that valuable anymore for trolling, because you're asking the bow mount to control your speed. And so it's going to ramp up and ramp down, versus if I have my gas kicker on and let my gas kicker control my speed, my bow mount controls my heading, then I prolong my battery life. So guys that coping fishing, they do the same thing. They drive, they direction steer with their bow mount. The gas kicker is actually doing most of the pushing of the vessel, and that way you get out, and your battery life's going to last for days on it, not hours on it. Any questions on that? So I'm kind of jumping through here pretty quick. I got time after, but before we go into determining what bow mount is right for your boat, I back up a little bit here. Any questions on using it, and what kind of applications, I guess? Let me just open it up a little bit. You said you're wanting to use one. How do you fish?
For a lot of different things, you know, anchoring upper for sturgeon,
Okay, so covered spot lock, get that, yep.
or locking over the top, a school or rockfish off the coast.
Okay, spot lock.
There's just a couple of things that I like to have.
I'll even use spot lock sometimes when I've got a pretty chaotic event going on the boat. I'll hit spot lock so I can completely go neutral, essentially. I'll put the kicker in neutral, I'll hit spot lock, so now I'm telling the boat, we're stopping right here. And we got fish, we're clearing out, and maybe I'll let the pack of boats go past me, but I can hold. So then you still keep your bearings and wherewithal what's going on around you, but you're not stuck there, you know, trying to adjust. So spot lock covers almost everything. What about?
I see a lot of value in it. Like the Wind River is a big fishery.
So that's where you can be surgical. You can just,
Yeah. I mean, it's just important. I mean, the minute you're fighting that head-on wind, right?
Yep.
You're just banging on the waves. I don't know how much tension that motor can take. I mean, how deep it's in the water. You know, does it wear out?
yeah, well, I'll talk about that a little bit when I get into the motors.
Yeah. Make noise. I mean, I can see the value in it. I mean, have a Garmin reactor on a lot of the boats, and it's like, okay. But I mean, I can see the value in it. It's just another tool in the tool bag.
Absolutely right.
And of course, who wouldn't love to have spot lock and be done with throwing the anchor, you know, the buoy in?
When you change from being a reactionary, that's what a reactor is. I have a TR1, had it for years. It reacts. I mean, it holds the head in, but then it's reacting to how they are. This is proactive. It's dragging you through it. There's no better way to control a boat is from the back. So, what about you? Any questions or so far on how to use it, technologies?
No, I've got just a Minn Kota that I use up on my bow, but I've got it tucked by gunnel.
Okay.
I just use it up there when I'm going around and fishing and guiding at the same time.
Okay. So, you know, with the GPS ones, you know, it opens up a whole lot more options. Obviously.
Yeah, one question was follow the contours, and it does that, so that's got me thinking.
Got you thinking, yeah, awesome. Anything back here? Okay, it's good. So no other questions on how to use some of those technologies, okay? So we'll help you try to figure out what's the right one. A lot of, pretty big catalog, a lot of motors. Range and salt, what shaft length do I need? We talked about that a little bit. What voltage thrust, how many batteries, what kind of systems? What the features include, we covered that a little bit. Mounts, batteries, that's kind of the next segment. Kind of drilling down to what motor you truly want, what you're looking at. So in the Minn Kota lineup, you have two series. Brush motors, this new brushless series. Brush motors been around for 90-some years. Minn Kota's been made in Minnesota for almost 90 years. They got 10 million motors in the history. They've been historically all brushed. Up until this year, 2024, we came out with brushless motors. You know, brushless has been in a lot of technologies. You know, if you're in the tradesman, you know, your tools will brushless, but you can still buy a brushed, you know, DeWalt and Makita. But brushless is a more efficient, has better torque, it's longer lasting, but it is also more money. But within our series of motors, you can still buy a brushed motor, and you can buy a brushless. So the brushless series are called Quest. So if the motor says Quest, you know it's brushless. If it doesn't say Quest, it's standard brushed, and we make multiple voltages on those motors. Next question is freshwater, saltwater. Historically, freshwater has always been black, saltwater has always been white. Except we, this year, created the Instinct. Top right one, it's in black. Saltwater motor, all in black. A little confusing, but we got asked for it, we did it. So these are the three most popular levels of bow mount with GPS control. Good, better, best. Okay? When you go to better, best, the only reason they jump to better, best is because the two top ones are push button, auto deploy, auto stow. Ulterra, now Instinct. I can push a button, bow mount display. That's what I have on display out there. That's an Instinct. Push button, bow mount to deploy, push button, bow mount stow. The other two series, you have to manually get up to the bow push a lever, push the bow mount over. So, biggest thing when I do consumer trainings and seminars and at sportsman shows is, are you comfortable getting up to the bow of the boat and deploying a bow mount motor? Some boats have windshields, some boats are tall, some boats, some guys are just not comfortable bending over, especially if you fish a lot down here. An automatic deploy motor is a safer feature. Now, historically though, the question is, what happens when it breaks? With this series, the Ulterra series, it was a little bit pain in the butt. The Riptide Ulterra had some issues initially and was a pain in the butt to stuff. Hence why we now built this Riptide Instinct. It's a completely redesigned motor. Built for the harshest conditions. I think you were asking about being beat up in hard conditions. That's the Instinct. So I ask guys, yes?
Let's say it was deployed, right? And it's time to go. And I'm pushing the deploy, stow mode,
Yep.
and it doesn't do it. Is there a manual release to get it back in the boat?
Yes, there has been on both models. There still is an Ulterra, but we're talking about Instinct because that's what I'm assuming most guys in this room will be somewhere near saltwater sometime. The Instinct is the best motor in the industry as far as the bow. And it has a pull pin, stow, pin locks in. The Ulterra was the old Ulterra was a little more tricky. Most guys, what they did is if they had a power failure or an error on the motor, you would take a quick release bracket. When the bow mount was put on the boat, they use a quick release bracket. In Kota we make them. Mine out there's used one. What I would do is I'd actually pull that pin and I would just pick the whole motor up and go with the boat because it's not safe to be fiddle farting around on the bow of the boat with the motor down. With the new Instinct, it's super quick and easy, a lot easier.
So auto deploy, auto store, but emergency.
Still manually got to go up there, an emergency.
Okay.
Versus the Terova series, you're up there still deploying it by hand regardless.
Got it.
So price points, just rough retails. Opening price point, small boat, $1,600. Opening price point, small boat, $1,900. Opening price point, freshwater, everything on it, $3,600. You come over here, you're nearing $5,000. That motor I have on display is $4,700 list. So you can see okay, what kind of price point was I thinking of? Oh man, now I'm thinking I'm sub 2,000. This puts me in this power drive. I want GPS, I want spot locks, I got an 18-foot boat, just fine. Okay, I've got a 25-foot boat, 30-foot boat, I'm going offshore. I want the best, I go Instinct, no question. If I've got an open sled, I do not feel I need stow and deploy. I want to go up there and launch it. You can go right here, Riptide Terova, we've been making it for years. Got a pile of them out there. I've had one for years. I just pulled mine off and went to an Instinct this season. I haven't got to use it down here. So, but that kind of helps, hopefully help understand the three most popular series we have out west. And a freshwater and a saltwater, and then kind of retail price points as they graduate up. Yes, sir.
Just to make sure I'm understanding, you said the Instinct is the only self-deployed and stowing on the saltwater series?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to-
Yeah, that's a great question. We do get the guys that think, oh, you know, I want a Terova that does it. No. It used to be Ulterra Riptide, but that is now discontinued. The Instinct took its place.
How's the battery consumption between the different models?
Well, so between different models, you have in this power drive, you have a 12-volt system and a 24-volt system. In the Terova series, you have 24 and 36-volt systems. Same thing up on top. The difference on brushless motors is that you run both voltages. 24-volt system and the brushless motor is 50% more torque than its predecessor, 30% more on a 36. Okay, numbers don't mean anything. Consumption is based on your fuel tank. I got a diesel truck. I put 35 gallons in it. I can go so far. I put a trailer on it. I'm not getting 17 miles a gallon. I'm getting 10 miles a gallon. That's the same thing with a bow mount. The harder the bow mount works, it's all noted in your prop speed of your remote from 1 to 10. 10 being the highest prop speed, that's the most consumption. So, great question. It's going to get a long-winded answer. The easiest way to determine it is how hard does the motor, the bow mount need to move your boat? That's how years of doing this, I understand what the carrier you're going with. You told me you have a 16-foot, smoker craft, and you don't want to be on a budget, you're fine with a 24-volt power drive.
What I'm thinking though is between the Corolla and the Instinct, if they both were doing the same job.
They're both drawing exactly the same voltage.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what
In an apple-to-apple comparison. The only thing is about the Instinct, it's got a slight more draw to stone deploy. It's only like, I could be wrong here, but I think it's less than 10 amps to stone deploy. And at max top speed, it's drawing 55 amps for instance. So the motor heads on Quest motors, the motors themselves are identical. You go into non-Quest, into this drill over here and something over here, the brushless motor is more efficient to run longer. Brushless will run longer. So here's the two Chirovas. This is the best-selling saltwater manual stone deploy. You have the brushed version, brushless version. Brushless, again, longer run time, more powerful motor. You run on 2 voltages. This got a shaft up to 100 inches. It's a carbon fiber infused shaft. It's a little bit heavier duty. That's actually not a little bit, it's a lot heavier duty. But this has been the meat and potatoes on the Columbia for, once I fished, Dr. Francis started using the old Riptide 80. That's been 15 years, you think, Mark? Yeah. And that's basically the predecessor to that. One of the first guys to really start pushing high pilot use was a guy named iFish, and his name is EY Fish. He's an eye doctor, and he had a little 80 pound, which is a 24 volt system. So we still make essentially that motor, but it's got a lot better. So again, I keep harkening back to this for this market, offshore, halibut boat guy, really anything on a 23-foot heavy sled all the way up to a 40-foot center console. 48 yellowfins in Stinking Florida's got these motors on. Up to a 100-inch shaft. There's a yacht down there. It's a $1.7 million yacht that's got one of these to help bring it into the slip. These have more power than a lot of the built-in bow thrusters in a lot of these big boats. So it's impressive what these stinking things can do. And their direction, obviously. They're bow thrusters, one left and right. So getting off subject. This is the motor that we've seen as the biggest use candidate for everything out in the Pacific Coast. From Eureka to Stinking Anchorage, this is the motor for guys that really are learning to fish both the drift, if you're talking about for halibut, for spot locking on reefs and bottomfish. And there's guys in Charleston, they're getting the drift so low, they're spot locking and they're catching their halibut bleeding, they're just sitting there chumming. They're just sending enough bait, and eventually they're going to load the boat up and they're not moving their spot. I fish Newport, it's a little more drift, we fish a little more drift, and so doing what we were talking about earlier, just keeping the bow into it and using the bow mount just to keep you from spinning around.
Thinking about your comment you just made about using it to LTV into the slip, I'm sorry, I'm not on these things, but does it auto adjust when the water gets shallow? Will it create a lot of something?
No, you will want to pay attention to that, but most applications, you don't send it, foot under the water line is what the measurements are. Most of the boats, especially in, rolling seas, you're going to send it down to the cattle feed. So you will want to pay attention. If you're coming up, you're going to want to, in depth. And if you're going to come up a beach or whatever, you can just trim it up. And then a guy's asking me if I'm pulling nose into a slip. The thing will trim all the way up to within 10 inches before it tilts. So you only need about 10 inches of space for the motor to come into the boat. So really, there's no interference with the dock of your nose in. So that kind of segues into this next little graph. Again, talking about your size of boat, we're talking about if you have a little 16-foot smoker craft, you get away with some small thrust and voltage systems. Most of the boats out here, that's 17, 18, 30, 2,600 pound boats with all the gear guys. That's why I always start with that power drive that we showed earlier, that 24 volt system. And then you get into 10,000 with 15,000 pound boats up to 35 feet listed here. It's all 115 pound thrust. It's all that instinct. And then you ask yourself, well, what shaft do I need? Again, center line, boat on troll, you gotta take a little bit of measurement, but I can just tell you, I don't know what everybody's boats are. If you got a 34-inch gunnel height and lower, so we're talking not a Columbia, not a River Wild sled, we're talking intruders, we're talking even Willie Predators, Willie Raptors, anything that's in that common gunnel height, usually a 16-inch shaft covers it. So when you get to a taller gunnel height, or if you got a big bow swept, like a Hughes craft, a Raider, especially Raider, I jump right into 72 in most other roads. It's only when you get into big offshore that you're going to go into 87 and 100. 60 and 72 handles about 80% of our riverboat business. 72 to 100 is ocean. But we've been riding 72s on ocean boats for years. So we didn't make an 87 until last year. And we didn't make 100 until this year. So.
But if you're mostly an ocean guy, I mean, you're in a swell, isn't there an opportunity for that motor to come out of the water so the longer shaft, just from the word go, might be better?
Yes. Yep. You can always trim up. You can't get any deeper than what you've got. Right? Here's the side factor a little bit. Is when the motor comes in and stows, does it clear the helm? In some of the more forward helm boats, you kind of have to, on the rigging process, have to get creative in where it stows. I've seen boats actually stow outside the rails. But yes, absolutely right. I have not seen a 72 cavity. Pro's boat's got a 72 on it. It's his boat. In case if you get any photos of his boat and his sides, it's a pretty tall, big boat. Today, if I was in another motor, I'd definitely get an 87 on that. Just because you get out some big rollers, you don't want to cavity. Some pictures. So, I mean, this is a 30-foot. Kingfisher's got one on it. Columbia, that's a 72-inch on Columbia. That's a Pacific HT. That's their big open sled. That's a 72-inch shaft. This boat here is only a 60-inch shaft. This is a Willie Raptor. They put a 72 on it. Jay Bailey, he's got a 72, 60-inch. That's me. That's Cody Herman. That's a 72 on his big Columbia. Trevor Scotty, he's back in the center. He's got a 60-inch on that Willie Raptor. That boat up there, you guys see that little white boat up there? On the top right corner? That's too short of a shaft. If you see it, it's skipping out of the water and see the deflection of the shaft. I took that photo and wanted to use that as an example. That's a 60-inch shaft and it needs to be a 72. Because that's just out here at Route 10. I mean, not at Route 10, that's out from the Hammond. I mean, it wasn't even that bad, that boat, but I don't know if you had Honda on the back or what, but it was heavy for it. It was shouting all the time. So guys asked about fabbing them, my boats, this, that, whether it's willing as a way. There is a plethora of fab guys out here. I got 3 pictures up here. This is a glass skiff, big motor on it, fully welded around, kept the rails. This is over off the side of the windlass, big instinct on it. That guy's got that's a huge boat. That's a Charleston. I think that's like a 32, 36. That's a custom fab mount there. And this is a fiberglass Clackercraft Magnum sled with a Magnum power drifter. That's got an instinct on it that they built now. So it's just more for fun talking. There isn't a boat that we can't get a motor on. And I don't mean we as in Minn Kota, but I mean the right fab shop, the right guy. There is any boat we can get it on. Well, I got rails. Well, they cut all the rails. All these boats have rails on the front. You got an offshore boat, they cut the rails and they cap them. So there's a lot of opportunity. There ain't a boat, like I said, that you can't put them on. I mean, drift boats. I mean, I got a guy, every year comes to the sportsman show. He's a 17-foot Clacker Max drift boat with a bow mount Ulterra on it and spot locks for springers. It's incredible. Any questions on that? Any questions on deciding what's best for you, bow mount wise? Right? Okay. Batteries and chargers. Biggest question is, you know what? Okay, I got all this money wrapped up in this bow mount, but it sucks. It's running out and dying. What kind of batteries got? Oh, I got good marine batteries. Where'd you buy them? I bought them at Buymark. It's not good marine batteries. Buymark RV marine batteries are not a deep cycle battery. They're a cranking amp battery. With bow mounts, you want true deep cycle. So you can find them, they're good, they're generally only, you only get about 50% of cycle life out of them, they have no warranty, they're heavy, they're not designed for it. But if you're in a pinch, you can buy a couple of them. They'll work. AGMs, much better. With AGMs, the capacity of the battery, you can use about, depending on the brand, Star, I got a photo there, Full River, I think Interstate makes one. They can get up to almost 75% of its capacity as usable energy. What do you mean, Travis? Usable energy, what are you talking about capacity? So every battery has a capacity level, and in in deep cycle electronics, it's rated in amp hours. So that's like your fuel tank. How much fuel is in it? It's rated in amp hour. Your standard lead acids are rarely over 50 amp hours. If you do their math, because they're a cold cranking battery. AGMs, you can get up there to 75, 98, 105. There's some weird numbers on them. I think that North Star is 98 or 102. I actually have a pair of those in my back of my boat. They're, so I've got, let's say, 98 amp hours. Let's round to 100. 100 amp hours, let's keep square numbers. 100 amp hours, if I did the math on it, on flooded lead acid, one that's got caps for water in, right? Only 50%, only 50 amp hours can you actually use before your voltage drops, the voltage decreases below the 12 volt line. At 12 volts, most electronics start having issues. Your fish finders, they'll still work. Your bow mounts are going to start stopping. That's at 50% on those batteries. They only last about 100 cycles. You go to an AGM, you get, the AGM curve comes up here a little bit further, up to 70%, especially on those North Stars. And you can charge and deplete them and charge them about 300 to 500 times. Now, the best, everybody's talking about lithium. Lithium iron phosphate is actually the chemistry we use, not lithium ion, not lithium, not only cell phone stuff, not only stuff you see, and not even lithium cobalt, but Tesla's using it. It's lithium iron phosphate. That's what we use in the marine industry. It is literally the best battery to choose for bow mounts and deep cycles, because they're designed specifically for long discharges. They're designed to have many cycles. Comparison to a North Star, 300 to 500 cycles. A good lithium, 3,000 to 5,000 cycles. That's the lifespan. Lithium has 95 to 98% of its voltage, of its capacity, is usable voltage. So this red line you see over here that drops off. I don't know if anybody's in the trades, use any drills, any impacts, screw guns. You know how now they just run and shut off because they're all lithium. They're lithium polymer, but they're still, the technology is the same. All lithium has a circuit board on the battery that actually controls its voltage to keep it at a flat level and then drop off. So all our voltage, the capacity is usable. Now look, the batteries weigh up to 70% less. This battery here, compared to that one, if they're apples to apples, it weighs 30 pounds, that one weighs 75 pounds. So you're going to take a lot of weight out of your boat, or not put weight in your boat if you're starting over fresh, going lithium. Some of the lithium brands out there, they've got warranties up to 20 years. Not prorated, over-the-counter warranties.
How many of those batteries do you need?
So batteries, great question. My next slide will cover that a little bit. Okay, I don't like it where I put this on. Let's do this. Since we're talking about batteries. To make a 24-volt system, you create a battery bank system in what they call series. This is 24 volts. So positive to negative, that creates 24 volts. This is to create 36 volts. Positive, negative, positive out here, negative out there. There's your circuit, it's 36 volts. So that's called series. That's how we make voltage in series. There is some lithium companies out there that will make a single cell 24 volt or a single cell 36 volt. The only concern there is coming back to your charging is the best onboard chargers on the market today don't make a single cell lithium today. I find out different next week as I go to Orlando for the industry trade show, and a lot of the new products are coming out. It's something we've been asking for, but as of today, some of the best onboard chargers don't make a single cell charger. There's only really one out that I know. It's called Minn Kota. They make a single cell industrial charger for doing those batteries. But for most of your boats out there, all based on 12 volt systems, So Minn Kota is pictured here. I had it on display, our precision charger. It can do all chemistries, flooded lead acid, AGM, and lithium. So I just make sure people are realizing whatever, if they're shopping for batteries, you do have choices, but you gotta think about charging. I'm gonna skip over that. So then you got then you ask yourself, okay, the other way to build a battery bank is building stuff in parallel. Parallel is positive, positive, negative, negative. Like I can't think of anything that you use at home that's in parallel. Most everything we use at home, flashlights, everything are in series where we stack batteries. A parallel, what it does is give you deeper capacity. So this is a 12-volt system. Let's say these both batteries are 100 amp hours. Put them in parallel, I get 200 amp hours of capacity. Long run time, bigger gas tank, made the gas tank bigger. 24-volt system. 2 batteries in series, then parallel. Let's say this battery is still 100 amp hours. This is a 200 amp hour 24-volt system. Guys go look at, no, I got 4 batteries. That's 400 amp hours each. 100. No, it doesn't work that way. Batteries in series creates voltage, not capacity. Batteries in parallel create capacity, not voltage. It's confusing, but it's one of the biggest questions I get all the time when guys go, hey, I'm running out of batteries, look at my bank. I go, well, you don't have what you think you have. Because you have 3 batteries that make 36 volts. Well, they're 100 amp hours a piece. I'm like, that's all you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
In order to go in parallel, you need an even number of batteries.
Yes. Yep. And batteries, in all instances, batteries in parallel and in series need to be the same make, model, you want to buy at the exact same time. You cannot take this system and say, oh, I got one that went bad. Let's go buy a new one. Because all you did is made a new one. This battery is the worst one in the bank. Batteries self-level only down. They never self-level up. Does that make sense? Batteries only self-level down. The weakest link. So when I got a battery bank that goes down, test them all. The problem is, if you're going to buy a new one, it's just going to degrade right to the worst one in the bank. So ideally, I redo the whole bank. Same thing with RV guys. RV guys have done this for years because these RVs have big banks of golf cart batteries. Well, one goes down, you can't really rebuild the bank because you can't plug it, replacement in. You physically can, you're just losing money a lot faster than you would if you didn't, because that battery degrades instantly. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I jumped over a couple things here on bow mounts. There's a couple of accessories. So if you got a cabin boat, not a cabin boat, windshield boat, if you don't have access to turn your bow mount on, all bow mounts have to be physically powered on at the unit before they're used. You can't power them on from the remote, your phone, or if you haven't tied it in a hummingbird. So they have a physical on-off switch. Well, we came out this year with this deck switch. It allows you to put it in the helm and actually power it in the Kota without even touching it. So for guys that have been using bow mounts, this was a stinking game changer for us because now I don't have to walk up there and turn them on. Sometimes you forget you're at the dock, or the new motors, they power off after 3 hours not being used. You're on a long run out to the halibut grounds. Oh crap, send somebody up around the corner to turn the bow mount on. And this takes that all off, just power. When we talk about the quick release brackets, it's white on white, don't work. I got it on display, I can check it out. But it's a bracket, pull the pin, take the motor off and not using it, or if you got it. Any questions so far? I think we're about done. The only thing I have here was One Boat Network. All of our stuff is titled One Boat Network. That means it's seamless integration. It's seamless integration with Humminbird, Fish Finder, the only Humminbird when it comes to motor. The phone app, and if you had a Humminbird, you could actually control your can downriggers if you had it too. But in this case, if you want to drive your bow mount via graph, charts, contours, vegetation, shoreline, anything from the graph, it has to be a Humminbird. You can drive it from the phone app too. So that's called One Boat Network app. Last slide. I went pretty quick. I don't know if you guys questions, but maybe it wasn't quick and it was long. Any questions?
No, it's cool. Thank you.
Okay. You guys good back there? Any questions?
So if you buy the top of the line Saltwater series, let's just say you did a 4 battery in parallel set, how many total pounds, let's say you put everything about your belt, how many pounds are we talking about?
Okay. So if you buy the best, you buy the instinct. which I have on display. And it's, I want 36 volt with the maximum out. I buy 3 AGMs, because I'm not sold on lithium yet, but we go extreme here, right? We're gonna go the heaviest. So I buy 3 AGMs, 210 pounds of batteries.
You would do it parallel before.
No, if I'm gonna, you would actually have 6 if you want a 36 volt. If you're okay with a 24 volt system, then it'd be 4. Does that make sense? Not very many people, okay. It takes 3 12s to make 36, right?
Yeah.
To double this bank, you have to double the bank. To make if you make a 24 volt system, this is what a 24 volt system looks like. Add that again for 36.
Okay, got it.
But nobody does that. It's actually, I believe, in NMEA or ABYC, we don't say to go to a 36 volt bank. Parallel. I think we stop at 24.
Okay.
So what we actually do is just buy bigger 12 volt batteries that have a higher capacity. Most common for that situation is 3 12 100s. 100 amp hours. Now, talk about weighting. 3 12 100s on a good deep cycle AGM with those no stars, they're 70 pounds apiece. So you got 210 pounds of batteries. You got an onboard charger that was 15 pounds, 225 pounds of batteries. You throw the bow mount on there, that's an instinct's about 80 pounds. You've got 300 pounds on the bow. If I change those all out to lithium, I'm going to be at 30, 70, 100. I'm going to shed off 110 pounds of it. I'm going to shed over 30% of the weight from the lithium. And that means a lot when you're throwing that all in the bow of the boat. Well, guys, well, I'm going to put the batteries in the back of the boat.
They'll pretty much triple your time on
Well, I mean,
it, between charges.
what's that?
They'll pretty much triple your time on the water between charges also going to lithium.
Yes. It'll double it in an AGM comparison because an apple you can use all of it. So, do you have a question?
What's the average trolling time per day that you factor into this?
So it's all about that crop speed. So if the crop is moving at max 10, it's drawing at max amps, which is 55 amps for most of these motors. This system we just sold you, let's say we stepped it up into lithium, that's about 2 hours at 10. We're not running motors at 10. If you did, you're in the wrong conditions. You need to add your gas kicker to it. You're usually in trolling conditions. I'm usually running between 2 and 3. You're at 2 and 3. So you scale it all the way back. Now you're at 4, 8 hours, depending on some of the other conditions. So you extend your usage time by watching crop speed, and then on a trolling situation, compensating with the gas kicker. Gas kicker is propulsion, valve mount is direction. I mean, it's just not smoke and mirrors, guys. It's straight math and science. It just, there's the variables are there, but it's still about, you only have so much gas in the fuel tank. You can only go so far when you get so many miles per gallon, right?
Well, that Hummingbird charger charge off your engine, or is that strictly plug it in when you get home deal?
Okay, so the Minn Kota Precision Charger is a AC shore power charger.
Okay.
We make an alternator charger that can take some of the alternate charging current off of your outboards or inboard and convert it into a charging current for the batteries. It is a subsidy, not a true charge. The amount of time most guys are on outboards, unless you're a deep offshore guy, they only run for about 20 minutes at a run. And in that 20 minutes, you're getting so very little ramp up in current charge, they almost become a non-subject. The amount of rigging and wiring and a little bit of parasitic draw on the system, they become a negative. I don't sell alternator chargers for 90% of our guys. If I've got a big offshore boat and I'm an overnighter and I got inboards and I got Yamaha alternators and all these things, absolutely. They create a lot more charging amperage. They can create 75 amps, but they can hold it. Our Yamaha doesn't even allow you to tap into their alternators on their outboards because they overheat it. So, to answer your question, yes and no. Yes, there is a system. Okay. I don't suggest, I keep, bow mount is isolated from everything else in the boat. Everything else. There is no sharing of battery power of anything to your outboards. Guys go, well, you know, I got all these great batteries. That's great. What's the most important thing on the water? Safety. Never put anything on your cranking battery battery. When I do these seminars for marine electronics, like in Hummingbird and in graphs and all the other stuff, we talk about isolation current, isolation circuits. We don't put anything on a cranking battery. Cranking battery lives its life starting and getting you back to the port. Everything else should be on secondary systems. Bow mounts are a third system. They're like, they're with the bow, you put everything in the bow. Put the batteries in the bow, everything in the bow. Put batteries in the back, you gotta buy big, heavy cable. 4-aught cable up, you got, the money is ridiculous to start buying.
I want to charge it up for short power range, and that's why
Yeah,
not enough running time in between it.
absolutely. So what you do, put your onboard charger, battery bank in the bow, and then, you know, if you got one power port in the back, front extension cord, you know, and rig it in there and have it tied in with the charger.
Travis,
Yes, sir.
I've never heard of anybody actually taking a 36-volt system and trolling it dead in a day. I never have.
In a day, it's tough, especially if done right. It's tough.
I mean, lithium batteries, the guys
Not out
out
here.
Charleston are out there spot locking on bottom pitch and halibut all the time. I've never heard of those pro. Talked to him a little bit. I've never heard him running one out in a day,
Nope.
trolling, so.
Well, what about solar mat? You were talking about that up on the roof.
That is the next emerging stuff. So you've got big T-tops and big tops.
Absolutely.
So what they're doing is soft panel, glue down soft panel is what they're doing. And what you're gonna do for that is all in the Victron world. You're gonna go into Victron, look at their solar charge controllers and DC to DC chargers. Victron is, I think they're in Sweden, but they have a couple US distributors. They make all your yachts and all your 24 volt, 48 volt yacht systems, they're all running Victron stuff. I mean, we're gonna get way geeked out when we start talking about Victron, but I can, but that is definitely the next step. The amount of solar that we get, solar rays, I got guys right now in Central Oregon. They're moored over there, you know, for the summer. We're getting like 10 hours of good sunlight, right? Again, this time of year. Not 10 hours, but they're getting a lot more than we would in the fall out here, obviously. They're not needing to charge their battery bank for the entire summer because their solar array is subsidizing enough. They're only fishing until the heat of the day, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It sits at the dock the rest time it's charging. So there's a lot of stuff we can get way cool on that, or excited about. But like to Mark's point, yeah, you can build out a good lithium bank on one of these 36 or even 24 volt systems, and your day is dialed. The best thing is to have fun, be safe, learn your tool, learn your equipment, don't cheap out. Realize that on a reputable, big guy that's going to rig, it's kind of like construction stuff. You know, it's materials and a half, or you know, if you got $4 grand, $5 grand in the motor, just double it when it's all said and done. With batteries, wiring, and charging, shop time, labor. If you got a crazy boat, you can back a lot of that out if you do some stuff yourself. But I usually that's a rough estimate. Well, thanks for your time, guys. Last one. I appreciate you guys sneaking out a few of you, so hopefully it was worth it.
Englund Marine has a whale of a deal for you.